Hi, this is Manginoni, and here's my review for Amazing Spider-Man 698. Now, there's going to be spoilers. I'm going to spoil things kind of early so I can get to the meat of everything. So if you don't want to be spoiled, if you haven't read this, come back later. Stop the video now. If you're still here, let's get on with the review. Now, a lot could be said about Amazing Spider-Man 698. So what I'll do is this. I'll give a little high overview first. I thought the art was really well done. And I think the story that Slott has crafted works. And the reason why I'm saying this works is because it's getting an intense reaction out of people. It's getting the most common two reactions I've heard are, "That was dumb," and "I'm canceling Spider-Man." And I think that some people are doing this a little bit prematurely. And I'll go into that in just a second. Now, what we have here at the start is Dr. Octopus not doing anything, not even moving. Suddenly he moves, and not moves, I'm sorry, he talks, and he says Peter Parker. So that sets this whole thing into motion. While that's going on, you have Spider-Man swinging around town, fighting crime, going to Aunt May, having a meeting with Max. And throughout all of these experiences, Peter Parker's dialogue is a little bit different than what we normally expect out of his mouth. And when the Avengers call Spider-Man to the raft, we learn why. Basically what happened is this, and I'll just get right to it. Peter Parker and Doc Ock's minds swapped. So what we have here is Peter Parker is in Doc Ock's body that's about to die, and Doc Ock's mind is in Peter Parker's body. And for some reason, he retains all of his memories. We don't know why. Doc Ock gloats about it, saying, "You're never going to find out because you're going to die." And as soon as he says those words, Parker dies, or Doc dies. Now, I think this is where the rage began for 95% of the people. And I sympathize with that rage. Because if you look at this comic book as at face value, Spider-Man's dead. I'm sorry, Peter Parker is dead. What type of death is this? You know, Peter Parker is one of the earliest, or such say, Spider-Man's one of the earliest comic books I read when I was a kid. And if he was to die, I always envisioned him to die heroically. Saving somebody's life, putting his life into jeopardy, saving the world, that kind of thing. Maybe saving Mary Jane in a very selfless act of courage. And he saved somebody. Not at the hands of one of his arch nemesis, and he dies of his body giving out. It just rage built immensely when I saw this. But then I realized, when have we ever seen a death in a comic book and took it at face value? Never. Because we always know there's a loophole somewhere. And if there's not a loophole, then they do something to bring them back. How many times Bucky and Jason Todd were the two characters who were never supposed to come back. What happened? They both came back, and they both have their own series, going on type thing. Bucky is in Winter Soldier, and I'm not sure what the status of Winter Soldier is, but I know he had his thing going, and Jason Todd did the Red Hood and the Outlaws. More popular than ever. How many times has Aunt May died and come back from the dead? How many times has Uncle Ben died? He died, and he keeps coming back in specials. You have Jean Grey, you know, rises from the grave every so many years. The list just keeps going. I'm not even going to bother with the list any longer. You get the idea. Now, let me tell you what I think is really smart about this. Green Goblin was considered Spider-Man's greatest arch-nemesis ever. Nobody was on that level of Green Goblin status until now. Doc Ock has, in my opinion, dethroned the Green Goblin as Spider-Man's greatest enemy. And the way they did this was brilliant. They could have done this in any number of ways, but what they did was they did this over time. If you remember, this started way back in Invincible Iron Man when Doc Ock had the bomb and he jacked with Tony Stark. And that was, to prove his brilliance. Then he does this thing with the Earth, in Spider-Man with the Earth, the satellite things. Is he going to save the Earth? Is he going to destroy the Earth? And he was always one step ahead of Spider-Man. He basically had the world under his control. And while you can argue the Green Goblin or Norman had the world under his control with Hammer and things like that, it's never to the quite extent that Doc Ock has it. And you have to keep in mind, too, even with Norman having the power of Hammer, he never learned the secret identities of the superheroes, through those files that they gained from Civil War. Doc Ock is now the greatest threat to all Marvel superheroes. He has elevated himself higher than anything. He knows who Daredevil is. He knows... Now, granted, you know who Cap is and Hawkeye and Wolverine, but he knows everything that the Avengers know. And that's something that Norman could never get. He has access to Tony Stark's technology, his labs, Reed Richards, his labs. Everything is at the palm of his hands. He is now he has stepped above and beyond everything. If you look at this as the end, Amazing Spider-Man's over, 698, Peter Parker dies, 2 more issues later, we get the fallout, and then Superior starts. Yeah, if you look at it that way, you're right. It's done. It's done. Why bother even continuing this? But the thing you have to realize is it's not over. It's changing to Superior Spider-Man because this is Doc Ock. Doc Ock, if you read through his dialogue that he does through through this issue, it's all about him being better than Parker, how he is superior to Peter Parker in his intellect, and he sees Parker and Mary Jane as wasted opportunities that he's going to rectify. He's going to do things better than Parker ever could, and this has a very interesting scenario that's set up now, because you have a character who's evil, who's unpredictable, and yet he has to walk a line between good and evil. He's not even thinking of doing bad. He's just thinking of being better than Parker ever could. And it's now an interesting situation. Unlike the Wish that reset things. This is far different. This is taking this into a far different territory. While we had a brand new day, this is unpredictable day because craziness could happen. If Doc Ock does not at least follow character, then Wolverine is going to pick it up, Captain America is going to pick it up, the Human Torch will pick it up, that there's something wrong. And then that's going to lead to his downfall. Now, besides you have that, there's another thing to look at is this. And this is an ethical question. If Doc Ock as Spider-Man, as Peter Parker, has sex with Mary Jane, does that mean it's rape? Because she thinks it's Peter Parker, but it's not him mentally. What happens if they got married? You know, um, if when Peter comes back, is that going to change things? You know, because she loved Doc Ock, not Peter. You know, because whatever happens from this point on, that's who Mary Jane is going to fall in love with. Um, Same thing with other supporting cast. Um, Another thing to keep in mind is this: it's, you know, like what is he going to do in terms of damage? You know, like during the Age of Ultron, is he going to be different than what he, like? Is he going to cause problems? Is he going to inadvertently help Ultron? You know, there's all sorts of unknowns that are going to happen. Another thing to consider is this: the way they swap this story doesn't even have to end in a year. This story doesn't even have to end when Spider-Man 2 comes out. They can keep this going on for as long as they want to milk it. But I'm going to give you this. I have a theory on how they're going to reset this. Now, if you remember in that fateful story arc where Doc Ock did his last um, push for evil, um, while we don't know how the switch happened, my guess is the switch happened sometime during that time period. Either that, or else maybe that robot that's following Spider-Man figured it out. But my guess, or not figured it out, but is responsible. But my guess is it's during that story arc. If the switch happened during that story arc, there's an unknown variable here. They never found the body of Silver Sable. Now, here's something that's very, very key that people are probably going to overlook and have probably already, once they reach this page, they probably stopped reading it in rage. Right here, we see, you know, the Doc Ock's body goes flatline. Then you have people coming in to save his life. What happens after this, we don't know, other than Parker, or I should say Doc Ock, leaves with the Avengers, and he's like, this is, you know, he's got the rest of his life ahead of him. Things are going great, but we don't know what happened. My guess is Doc Ock does not die. He gets saved. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe there's another issue or two that's going to come up that's going to say, no, Doc Ock's dead. We're going to see his obituary. We're going to see all that nonsense. But regardless of that, I think this is the loophole that they're creating. The other thing is, if the switch did occur during that battle, you have to remember there's two characters that, or actually one key character that's missing, and that is Silver Sable. It's highly possible that she knows this switch occurred, and maybe I shouldn't say highly possible. I say there's a possibility that she knows that this switch occurred, and that could be a reason why she's staying away, that she's disappeared. She's waiting for this event to occur, and then when the time is right, she's going to help switch the minds back. That's my guess. My guess is somehow Silver Sable is going to get this body and set things right. Now, at first I originally thought this was going to go on for a year. I think this is going to go on potentially longer than a year. I'm not sure how long it's going to go, but they basically have a blank canvas now, and they're going to. I think Slott's going to do some serious damage with this. Now, you know, like I said again, there's a part of me that once I read this book, and I read this thing twice, I wanted to rage, because this is not the way I wanted to see Parker die. This is not how I want to see Peter Parker. This is not the character I want to be represented. I want the old Parker back. And I want him back immediately. but I am very hopeful for the future, because if you notice, like, if you've been watching my videos, one of the things I constantly stress or say is, I want change. I want something unique. I want something different. I want something to challenge me. And this is a storyline that's going to challenge people, because every step of the way you're going to want to rip pages out. You're going to hate this character, and at some point in time, there's a strong possibility that for a moment you're going to forget this is Doc Ock, and you're going to like the character. And I think once that happens, Slott is going to win. A little bit. He may not win completely, because I think the minute he breaks character again is when you're going to rage again. But I think there's going to be some interesting character moments. I think there's going to be character development. I think you're going to see things completely go crazy in terms of the romantic life of young Doc Ock now. You're going to see technology coming out of Horizon Labs that's going to be probably crazy. And while all that's going on, will Doc become evil? Will his knowledge leak out to villains? And it's a cloud that's going to be hovering over this. And I'm telling you, I cannot wait until I want to read everything. I wish I could read every issue in massive trades, just so I know how this thing ends. Because that's what I want now. I want the ending. Because this is not going to be forever. There's no way, shape, or form Doc Ock is going to remain Peter Parker until the end of time. At some point, if Slott gets off this issue, you're going to get an editor, you're going to get a writer who's going to say enough of it, and they're going to switch it back. And they're going to switch it back pronto. And so that's why I'm not worried. We're going to get Peter back. So all of you people just need to calm yourselves down, relax, read Deadpool, and then pick up the next issue when it comes out. Stick with it, because I really do think Slott has a vision. He hasn't failed us yet in terms of his run. He maybe had some good issues, maybe he had some bad issues, but as a whole, his body of work has been solid. If the Marvel editors were not behind the direction this is going to go, you'd see Slott off the book during the Marvel Now. That would have been the perfect time to change him, but I really do believe he's got a plan. I have to believe he has a plan, and I think it's going to be something that's going to it's going to shake things up, and I guarantee you, when Parker comes back, it's going to be the greatest story of all time, because it's going to be the story that we've been waiting for since issue 698, and it's a story that we're just going to want so badly, because we're tired of Doc Ock. And I'm telling you, Doc Ock is the greatest Spider-Man supervillain ever. Ever. Anyways, if you have any comments or questions, I really would like to hear what you guys have to think. I'm really wondering how many of you guys have decided that you're going to cancel this book and you're going to stick to that. There's no way you're going to buy Superior Spider-Man. Like I said, I, for one, am buying Superior, and I'm buying it happily. And also, I want to know if you guys thought that this was a good idea. I mean, not necessarily a good idea, but you think that it's going to be interesting and you're sticking around. Anyways, let's get you guys a code. If you have any other comments or questions, let me know. Or rate the video up or down, let me know what you think. Don't forget to like the Facebook link right there. Since I give out free comics. And I'll have more reviews later. So until next time.